So, with our 4th anniversary gift, with our 1,000, 10,000 4th anniversary tokens, they gave us the opportunity, players level 20 and up, to choose one officer out of 37. They gave us 37 choices. That's 6 more than Baskin-Robbins gives you. 37 flavors, if you will, of officer choices to pick from. That is a very generous gift. You will get the requisite shards needed to unlock one officer. If you already have the officers, you still get the same number of shards, which may help you with tiering up. Bear in mind that for most cases, I'm not going to say all because I haven't checked all of them, but I'm pretty sure it holds true that most officers, the amount of shards you need to unlock them is also the same amount of shards that you need to tier the officer from tier 1 to tier 2. So even if it's an officer like Will Riker who you have unlocked and you're like, oh, I don't want to spend the shards on, I don't want to spend, getting another 100 shards for him, I already have him unlocked. Now that might get you moving him up a tier, and that could have more of an impact on your game depending on what your play style is. And there are a lot of different officers for a lot of different things to choose from. Like we said, 37 officers as we scroll through the whole store here. Not all of the epics are represented. We don't have any of the Strange New Worlds guys. We don't have Jean-Luc Picard. I know, right? Why would we have Jean-Luc Picard? There's, again, 180 shards for him is probably why. But there are a couple of other ones in here. Lots of variety of officers there. Savakan points out, in about 36 hours from now, there will be a recruit officer solo leaderboard. So you might want to save your redemption until then, because a lucky pull of 100 plus, depending on which one you choose, certain officers are worth more or less. She's only 95, but say someone like Tendi is 120, different officers have different value there. That could be a good way of scoring for the officer solo leaderboard. That's an excellent point, Sava. Thank you very much for pointing that out. That is courtesy of stfc.ovh, which is your resource for your daily calendar. So tomorrow, we are here right now, November 29th, in the PM time slot, again, Eastern time zone. There's a heroic recruit event starting at midnight, just a few hours. This only needs 6,000 points. Getting one of these officers is going to put you over 100 shards on average. 150 points per epic officer shard is 15,000 points. Officer recruit solo leaderboard here on Thursday afternoon, right at event reset on Thursday. Might be worth holding off to claim your officer, get a 15,000 point head start. Certainly could put you ahead of a few people, especially people who have already made their officer claim. So good call out there. So 37 officers. That's way too many to choose from. Way too many options there. So I'm going to go ahead and I narrowed it down a little bit for you. First things first, of these 37 officers, you can immediately eliminate 21 of them. Simply by going to your recruit tab, scrolling on over here, as long as you have at least one transporter pattern, you can see 21 of the same officers are already right here and easily sourceable at your fingertips. So cross them off the list. Cross them off the list. Now we just went from 37 all the way down to 16. 16 remaining officers left. So who does that leave us with? Go back into our event store. That will leave us with These guys, 16 remaining officers. I'll zoom in on that a little bit more so you guys can see it a little better. 16 remaining, that's who we've got. Rom, Worf, Quark, Geordi, Troy, Lorca, 5 of 11, Michael Burnham, 10 of 11, Tendi, Beckett, Grush, Data, 11 of 11, 4 of 11, and Jayla. Now, as you can see here, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of those 16 officers are available in Ultra Recruit packs. Not the ideal sourcing for them, but they are at least available through that. Honor Guard Worf, I should also note, and Amalgam Refinery. He's sourceable through that as an additional way. If you have a Devore Fisha, your Latinum Rush event on Mondays will give you 2 Quark shards for completing it. Lorca and Burnham are also available in the Disco pack. Lorca's only available if you have the ship refit, which was available through the data chip turn-ins, along with the Fisha skin. The Disco Refinery is a viable sourcing strategy. It's a little bit stingy, but it's not as bad as the next one, being the Cerritos Refinery. This one is terrible for officer sourcing. The Disco, you get a certain number of tokens, you cash them in, you open a pack. The pack has 12 officer shards, 7% chance of getting an epic officer of those 12 pulls. You typically get 1 to 2 epic officer shards every time you open a pack. The Cerritos Refinery doesn't even guarantee you officers every time you open it. You've got a 50-50 shot of getting an officer, and then it's between Badgie and Rutherford and Boimler and Tendi and Beckett, and again, it's not even and balanced in terms of the way the officer shards pay out. So, very mismatched in terms of that, as we'll look right here real quick at our resource support tab. Cerritos Refinery. You get these, you get Cerritos parts and you get Culver particles every time you open a box. You get enough, you get 7,000 of these per week when you have the Cerritos. So if you're below Ops 36, you don't even have the Cerritos, this isn't even an option for you yet. And then it's one of those things where it's like you get parts, you get particles, and maybe if the coin lands on the right side, you get officer shards. But there's no real rhyme or reason in terms of whether you get 1 uncommon shard or you get 60 rare. You know, like they don't have the I button here giving you the percentages of the breakdown. So you don't even know if you're going to get them. Grush is sourceable through the Syndicate Daily. I would take him off the list. Wouldn't even put him in consideration. You get enough Grush shards as it is every day. So now we're immediately down to 15. And most of these guys, with 1 or 2 exceptions in here, being Rom, Worf, and 5 of 11. I'll move 5 of 11 up. I think the rest of these people are all ones you could probably wait on and could source other ways. If you don't have the Disco refit, you could make a case for Lorca as well. We'll move him around a little bit. But the rest of these officers you could probably wait on. So right now, here's 4 of our contenders. The 2 in the Cerritos Refinery, Tendi and Beckett. If you weren't playing actively when the lower deck events were out, they are good officers. You are still going to need to have, ships with a number of officer slots available, because if you only have 2 or 3 officer slots, while putting one of them in it is useful, it then takes away from your ability. Let's see, where's my Kelvin? That's a good example. It can prevent you from hitting your max percentages. So like the Kelvin, for example, if I assign officers, so as you can see here, because if I have Beckett in that third slot, well, now I'm not hitting all of my ship bonuses. I don't have the stats, so I'm not hitting these full bonuses to apply it. So even though she's giving me a nice 70% weapon damage, if I had another officer in there with much higher stats, if I put Marcus in there for a second, now I boost my attack up to 10,000. Now I get a 320% bonus. I'm improving the attack of the ship potentially more than what her lower deck ability would actually be adding. So if you don't have multiple officer slots open that you can put some serious stats to make sure you're hitting your percentages, the lower deck officers are good, but they're not as beneficial and as they could be. Certainly good for your longer game strategy as you continue to upgrade and tier up your ships and open up more officer slots. You'll see more value from them there, but not quite maybe not quite an immediate upgrade. If you're talking about this opportunity here is like you're the general manager of a sports team and you've got your first round draft pick, you're looking for somebody who's going to come in and make an immediate impact on your team, right? Make your team better, make your team stronger. So these people might be a little more down the road. Again, Grush we threw away. Data is I'm a little torn on for two reasons. One, Data is more of a long game, a higher tier, higher ops level, longer term officer in terms of what he does. Let's sort by name so we can look at Mr. Data. Data has no sourcing in the game currently. He is not in the transporter patterns. I'm sorry, I shouldn't say he has no sourcing. He has extremely terrible sourcing. He is not in transporter patterns. He is not in the ultra recruit packs. The only way to currently get data shards is through a epic away team assignment that comes around, once every couple of weeks and can give you 12 shards, which would mean if he takes 100 shards to unlock, you need to complete that mission 8 or 9 times to get enough data shards. You need to hit the critical 8 or 9 times to get enough data shards to even unlock him. His captain's ability while fighting hostiles and armadas increases the critical hit chance by 17%. Now, Data also gets a great synergy boost. Of 4% per side, which means you can get up to 25% of an increased critical hit chance. 25% more critical hit chance against hostiles, not as big a deal. 25% higher critical hit chance against armadas could be a pretty big deal, though. If your ship naturally crits 10 to 15%, and now Data's boosting it 25%, well, now you've got a 40% critical hit chance while fighting armadas. That's pretty good. This ability here increases your penetration stats against any non-player targets. So that's hostiles, armadas, and mission hostiles, those gold mission bosses. He will lower their mitigation, so you will do more damage, which is also a solid ability. Hey, good afternoon, Madrox. Good afternoon, Cull Speed. Good evening, rather. Thank you guys for joining us. I see you guys chatting away over there about who you guys picked and why. We'll get into that in just a second. So while Data has terrible sourcing, and this is a golden opportunity to get him, and he's a good officer, I don't know that he quite gives you that huge game-breaking ability, especially if you don't have some of the other crew members to go with him. Like if you don't have Beverly tiered up a little bit, or if you don't have some of the other people like Riker to go with him, or depending on what type of armadas you're going to be doing with him, right? Because you're going to have to swap out that third slot to get the extra damage bonuses too. Yeah. 4 of 11 and 11 of 11, those are guys who will have a solid improvement on your daily mining. 4 of 11 being your your ore miner, and also boosting your cargo capacity as his officer ability. Just a souped up version of Ston, and 11 of 11 is a souped up version of Barrett. Excuse me. So if we sort by group, these guys do not have sourcing currently really in the game, so if you didn't get them when they came out, or the occasional time when they run events, 3 of 11, gas miner, protected cargo, is in the transporter patterns. Her other two counterparts do not have sourcing yet. These guys could be efficient upgrades for you in that department. Getting higher boosts to mining speed. He happens to boost warp speed, so he gets you out to your targets faster. And these guys do have pretty good value. They are going to change, your daily mining habits. You're going to spend less time doing those kinds of things. It's a quality of life improvement. Would not at all be unhappy if you told me I'm getting 4 of 11 or I'm getting 11 of 11. I wouldn't consider that a missed opportunity. I'd consider that adding a quality player to your team who's going to get you a lot of use for a very long period of time. More so than some of the other mining officers that we've seen. And I think the last one on the list then is Miss Jayla. Again, an officer like Data who's got very terrible sourcing. Jayla we occasionally see pop up in various events or event stores as an option for sourcing. The only other way to get her is to be the person who sets a swarm armada, and then you've got like a 15% chance, I think it's something stupid, that in your starter's gift box, instead of getting 4,000 rare credits, you might get 4 Jayla shards. So Jayla does have terrible sourcing in the game, but depending on your ops level, Jayla is also not an immediate need. Prior to Ops 30, Swarm, if you're not killing level 39 or higher swarms, a tier 1 Jayla is not better than Pike Moreau Talon. Max Talon, Pike Moreau, you will kill more 37s and 39s than you will with, a Jayla crew per hull. I did the testing. That's what I came up with. At least for me, that was my experience. 39 is kind of your break even. When you get to the 41 and higher level swarms out in deep space, Jayla starts to turn the corner. You start to be more successful with her. Once you get her to tier 2 and she starts adding 2 shots per round, every time you tier her up, this ability increases. It really starts to accelerate. But tier 1 Jayla, useful right out of the gate. But if you're like, oh, I'm Ops 32, you're not going to need Jayla for quite a while, actually. You're going to still use Pike Moreau Talon for your kill and swarms. You're still going to use, if you're going to use your secondary crew with Strange New World Pike and Spock and Jayla instead of like Talon, okay, yeah, she's going to slot in there to your secondary crew. But that's still probably less efficient than your first primary crew. Especially when those guys are officers you've already got and sourced and acquired. So Jayla's good, and Jayla would not be a bad choice should you decide that that's the direction you want to go. I just want to warn you, don't expect the, oh my god, results. Jayla's helping me kill so many more swarms than I was before if you are a lower ops player. So let's see what we got here. So let's see what everybody said. Colsby thinks Jayla is the best option for newer players. I just disagreed with that point. Uh, Madrox says he narrowed his choice down to Jayla and Data, but he chose Jayla. Jayla's going to be a popular choice. I have no doubt about that. Again, the sourcing for her is terrible, and as your game progresses, her value will continue to increase. And if you can tier Jayla up and start getting extra shots with her, you're going to notice a huge difference. It was like night and day when I switched to her. When I got her to tier 2 a couple weeks ago. You know, I'm out there, I'm killing level, well, let's see. If I go back to this morning, when I was doing my hostile grinding, swarm clusters, here we go. Where are my 46s? So I was killing my 46s. Before I got her to tier 2, this crew, you know, I could get about 15 or so. Now I'm getting so much more than that because I'm getting the extra shots per round. And if I go look at the battle log, you see here she's adding +2 shots. So it means every time this weapon is firing, instead of firing twice, I'm getting 4 shots. And I'm getting 4 shots. And now I'm getting 4 more shots. So instead of getting 6 shots around, I'm getting 12. It's a huge output upgrade. And instead of the fight going 6 or 7 rounds like it used to, I'm finishing the fights in 3. So Jayla has given me a quality of life improvement at tier 2. But again, I'm Ops 46 and I'm killing swarms, 46, 45, 44 to complete my dailies. Not all of you will have the same need and therefore will not have the same results. And obviously more shots equal more chances for criticals, and the more criticals you have, the faster you end the fight. So, Belair says, you told your alliance to pick the officer who will help your gameplay instantly. And that is something I cannot emphasize enough. This is your golden opportunity to grab an officer who can slot right into your starting lineup, who could be, that cornerstone that could carry you for quite a long time to come. And again, as I mentioned, look, we'll slide over to my lower level account here for a second so we can take a look at this. There's a lot of good choices for this account for me to unlock officers. Looking at Rom, I just unlocked Rom. I could spend 100 and that would actually tier him up to tier 2. But he would give me more shots when attacking a station. I don't know necessarily like that. I don't do a lot of base cracking with this account, so necessarily getting a tier 2 ROM might not be needed. Jayla I don't have unlocked yet, and it's 130 shards, which if we're talking about that solo leaderboard event, is a lot of points to also pick up on that. 130 shards at 150 points apiece. 19,500 points in that solo leaderboard event Thursday afternoon, if you're patient enough to not click that button for 2 more days. Kirk, no. Eurydice, no. 10 of 11, no. Mud, no. Tendi. Tendi was available through that SMS meta. And also lots of officer shards. Getting this many Tendi shards would tier her up for me, which would give me more hull health. That could be impactful. Sela, no. Mitchell, hell no. TOS Kirk, no. Quark, I do not have unlocked yet. I'm close, but I don't have him. If I got this now, I would actually be close to tiering him up. His tier up ability boosts base mining speed. So tiering him up would actually also still have significant value. But my server's constantly at war, so I don't really get to do a lot of mining. So let me rephrase that. The server's not constantly at war. My alliance is constantly at war because, somebody's always saying something that somebody doesn't like, and somebody's always rubbing somebody the wrong way. And, so we've pretty much been at war with somebody for, I've lost count how many months at this point. So, while Quark's boosting mining speed would make my envoys, not sit around for as long before they get blown up, I don't really know that I'd be getting a lot of value out of having Quark there. So the Forge, he's in the Ultra Recruits. Khan's got so many other ways. Worf, I already unlocked. I just unlocked him. Tiering him up improves his ability from 45% to 50%. I don't know that a 5% increase into critical hit chance is going to make that much of a difference, especially when you have all the other strike team crews and stuff that everybody's running around with right now. I don't know that 5% more to Worf helps me. Marcus, yeah. Lorca, I have the refit. I'm starting to accumulate Lorca shards. He's in the Ultra Recruits as well then. So, you know, getting him unlocked, helpful. But is it game-changing? Probably not. 3 of 11 kind of falls into the same thing as Quark. Would love to have 3 of 11 to have this huge protected cargo boost and to improve my, you know, mining speed and things like that. But if I can't mine for more than an hour without my ship getting blown up anyway, you know, how much is this really saving me in terms of time and stuff like that? This feels like this is going to have to wait to down the road when, you know, either cooler heads prevail or, you know, there's a different alliance involved. Same thing with 11 of 11. Giorgio, transporter patterns. Troy is only useful if you're starting like rares and epics and you're punching up above your weight class a little bit and you kind of need the help. Kang, no. Gorkon, TOS, Spock. These are all transporter pattern people. 5 of 11 is the one we circled back to because 5 of 11 is not in transporter patterns but is in the epic chests. As you can see, I'm 3 shards away from unlocking 5 of 11. Nice little health bonus. You put 6 of 11 on the side. You put Khan on the other side, or Lorca, or Gorkon, or Burning, or, you know, with Giorgio or somebody like that, depending on what ship you're using. And you've got a pretty solid, versatile Armada / you know, PvP crew. So there's flexibility here with 5 of 11. Base is plus 20% to resources dropped by hostiles. That also includes reputation if you're grinding rep. Includes armadas if you're getting armada loot, as we just saw with the solo armadas I was doing earlier. And every time you tier up 5 of 11, this increases by 20%. So while I'm sitting here going, I'm 3 shards away from unlocking 5 of 11, I don't really care that much. I wouldn't want to spend this here. That would actually mean I'm 3 shards away from unlocking and tiering up 5 of 11 and getting a 40% bonus. And this seems like something that would have an immediate value and impact to my gameplay. So we'll circle back to some. I see lots of your comments and questions. We'll get back to those in just a second, I promise. Again, Grush we're not doing. 6 of 11 we're not doing. Data would be great, but is he in need? For my lower level account, pretty much no. Mariner, unlocking her would be great, but I only have 1 ship right now that would have the officer slots to really benefit from her. As my ships grow, her value to me increases. But the question is whether or not it increases enough to make her worthy of that first round draft pick. And none of these guys either, because they're all sourceable other ways. So to sum things up, Jayla seems like a good pick. Beckett and Tendi seem like decent picks if you don't have them and you have ships that are higher tiers and have multiple officer slots available that you can put them into. Could be very useful for solo armadas, could make a big difference in an impact there. 5 of 11 could have immediate impact for you, not just in terms of unlocking, but also tiering up. Honor Guard Worf for PvP could make a bit of a difference. Rom for base cracking could also make a big difference. Rom is significantly better than Khan for cracking bases. Delaying them from shooting for the first round and giving you additional shots means you destroy a whole lot more stuff in round one. So even if you're punching way up, if you're 35 and you're hitting like a level 40 base and they only have like 2 or 3 ships home, you know, you're putting some actual hull damage onto those ships, or you're destroying that ship in that first, you know, a ship in that first round, maybe one of their smaller, weaker ships. Instead of just having the defense platforms kick your ass and obliterate you, you're actually causing some damage to them first before things start to go sideways in rounds 2 and eventually round 3. So you can punch up considerably more with ROM. So there's my piece. There's my thought process, my logic on everything. Let's see what you guys think. Reading back through some of these comments. All right, so we looked at Jayla. Ace asks, is full synergy Strange New World crew might be better than Jayla? Yeah, you doing a full synergy crew or doing Strange New World Pike, Spock, and then using like your Max Talon or Kath still, depending on, you know, what officer tier you have those guys at. I also do want to point out something in case there is anybody watching this who is below Ops 20. Ultimate DJ pointed this out in his video. If you are below, if you're Ops 10 through 19, then what you received in your event store here, there will be a whole bunch of rare officers instead for you to unlock. But you see that this counter is up for 5.5 more days. If you manage before this timer runs out to get to Ops level 20, and you still have your tokens and haven't spent them, your store will convert from rare officers to epic officers, and you'll have your choice of one of these. And being level 20 and getting an epic officer unlock of, I don't know, where's Captain Pike? Hey, Christopher Pike, right there at Ops level 20, could be pretty significant, especially if you happen to already have Moreau. Even if you don't have Moreau, maybe you buy the Shakedown crew then, right? To give him synergy to work with. They're still available. They should be for $5 in the store over here. They don't have a whole lot of value on their own, but if you just need something to throw in because you don't have Moreau yet and you're only Ops, 18 or 19, and you're just still using the cadet crew, push yourself to Ops 20, go ahead and get Christopher Pike for free, spend $5 today and buy this thing, and then, slot one of these clowns in on the side to give him some synergy. And then when you get Moreau, you'll go ahead and swap them out, and put her in her place to actually get the full benefit of the ability. But still being able to do, Pike with Chen or Talon, and have some synergy to give him a boost, to make him boost that other officer more, could be pretty significant for you. So just want to make sure I point that out as well. Yeah, every time you tier up Jayla, right, she adds 1 extra shot per round. Yep. Your Ops 39, your Franklin A is only tier 3. You're not sure you need Jayla yet. I don't think you do need Jayla just yet. When you move into the 40s, she'll make a difference for you. The question is how else are you going to source her, right? If you know you need her down the road, and she's going to have a big impact for you later, are you just going to wait and hope that there's other things like flash passes or other packs or event stores that you can get her? Because there are from time to time. They know the sourcing for her sucks, and they do try to find other ways to integrate her into the game in small quantities, other than just through those rare Swarmadas, which are incredibly unreliable. So, Madrox asks, if you're fighting 46 swarms, are you saying Pike, Moreau, Jayla is a good crew? Pike, Moreau, Jayla would probably work pretty well. Strange New Worlds, Pike, Spock, and Jayla is what I've been using. I don't think I've tried Pike, Moreau, Jayla since I tiered her up to see what kind of impact difference she would make. But we can do that right now. We'll do that right now. Normally I do my dailies, since I do them simultaneously. I do Strange New World. Whoops, went too far, didn't I? Yep, there she is. I typically do Strange New World, Pike, with Spock, and then Jayla in the third slot. But let's see, if I'm killing 46s, nope, we're not going to wait 12 minutes. We have a question. I already put off procrastinating the answer because I was doing my spiel. So now we need to find out what we're looking at here. So the one we looked at earlier, when I killed this 46, we did it in 3 rounds. We did it at the start of round, the middle of round 3 is where we destroyed it, in the middle of round 3. We took a lot of shield damage because that's, that's Pike redirecting the damage into the shields, and didn't have as much hull damage that we took. This particular new fight that we just finished, again, we took less shield damage. Looks like we took about the same in terms of hull health. Again, we finished the fight in 3 rounds. She's boosting 2 shots. He's adding to the effectiveness of officer abilities. So as you can see, instead of getting 4 shots, I'm actually getting 6 shots. So that's pretty good. So there's 6. Hey, there's some criticals. And again, 6 shots that round because that's just the off round. And then we destroy it at the start of round 3. So I get shot fewer times because I ended the fight sooner, but a little bit more, slightly more, marginally more. I mean, I could export the battle logs and import it. Let's do that. Let's export the battle logs. This is PMJ 46 Swarm. And let's pop them into Spock's Club, and let's do the math, and let's just see which way worked out better. And this is Spike plus Jayla 46 Swarm. Put that into the battle log. And we'll check that out in just a second. Good evening, Olympus. Thank you for joining us. You're planning on grabbing Geordi? Just kidding. 5-6 Con. Yep, definitely a solid go-to Armada crew for sure. Most people use 5-6 Con. The new Deep Space Nine officers are good, but with Kira still being bugged, they're really only useful for solo Armadas using that crew. You still have the Riker crew, plus then obviously the hull breach and burning and that kind of stuff crews available as well. But anything you can do to improve 5 and then get more loot equals more chests being opened, it's drastically going to improve your growth. So certain things to consider there. Data is long-term for you. Jayla is not needed yet, but will be needed soon. 11 is useful but not exciting. Yep. Who am I picking on my main account? That's a good question. 35 shards away from unlocking Jayla. You've got 3 and 4 already, so maybe you don't need 11. You think I'm talking you into Jayla because you're going to be going to Ops 40 after the December arc. Okay. Sava, thank you very much for hanging out with us. I know it's late in Europe. I appreciate you staying up a little bit to chat with us tonight. Take it easy, man. And you're going to pick Data. Okay, good to know. let's put this into Spock's Club. Spock's Club. Battle logs. Battle logs. There's that one. Can I just do this and open both? Compare. All right, hang on. Let me upload the other one. Oh, it did. It did. All right, let's do a comparison then. So this is Pike, Moreau, Jayla. Damage taken. Short version is I mitigated 71.2%. I took 86,000 hull health, 87,000, we'll round it up. I took 87,000 hull health, a bunch of shield health, but who cares because that regenerates. All we care about really is hull health. So Pike, Moreau, Jayla took 87,000 hull health. Let's just look at the Strange New World guys. Strange New World, Pike, Spock, Jayla. Again, max mitigation there. Hull damaged 67,000. So I took about 20,000 less hull damage using the Strange New Worlds crew because of the extra shield mitigation from Pike, most likely. As you can see, there's 500,000. So more damage, more of the hull damage was protected because more of it went into the shields. And luckily the fight ended quickly enough before the shields got too low that it wouldn't manage to do that anymore. So Pike, Spock, and Jayla performed slightly better for science. Science! So. Belair says that you unlocked this officer last month and it took forever. You chose Beckett Mariner. She's tier 2 and you notice the 95% damage buff. That's what she goes to at tier 2. That's the other thing to look at too. Like if you're close to an officer or, you know, what would upgrading Beckett Mariner do? She goes from a 70% damage up to, that's a 25% increase to ship's weapon damage. Plus, you also get the 5 extra levels, right? If she was tier 1, she's capping out here. These are her total stats. Now you go get her up to level 10, and now her base stats have essentially like doubled. So now she's not, plus this is base stats, of course, so you've got all these other things going on. So now she's not as much of a liability in that below deck slot. She's not hurting you as much, taking away from your percentages. So that's justifiable, for sure. Hey, good evening, Lloydson. Welcome on in. We were just going through all the different officer options, coming up with who we think the best choice will be to make some picks here. As for who to get on my main account, that is a very good question that I'm going to have to stop and think about the answer for. Again, nobody with transporter patterns is going to be in consideration. 130 Jayla shards does not tier her up any farther for me. I'd still have to find a way to come up with the other 67. So I don't know that that would be a choice I would necessarily make because she already is tier 2. 120 Tendi shards gets me, I think she's already tier 2. It gets me closer to tier 3, but again, doesn't get me there. Not looking at any of these people tiering up Quark, like, nope, not very excited about that. 5 of 11 doesn't quite get me to his next tier up. Right now he's tier 3. So I'm still 200 shards. It gets me close. I need 230 shards. It gets me over half of what I would need if I took 5 of 11. So that's got potential right there. Honor Guard Worf, I go from 50 to, Worf goes to 55%, I think, at tier 3. He goes to 60%. So 110 shards would push him up another tier, and he would go from 50% to 60% critical damage boost. That's pretty good. But again, I'm not that far off, and he is sourceable, regularly through the amalgam. Lorca I just tiered up, so that's nowhere near it. Mariner does have possibilities here. She's very close to a tier up already, though, so not really looking at any of these guys. We do come back to Data. That would be a tier up for him. What is his tier 2? Data's piercing penetration stats goes from 60% to 120%. So that's a pretty significant upgrade. But you still have to find the right spot to put him. You're using Riker Bev Data. Riker is captain, Beverly for mitigation, and then you're getting extra penetration. So Riker's improving your damage. Could be pretty solid there. Could also try and do like a Picard crew as well. Picard Beverly Data or something like that. And then you're really lowering their mitigation value more. So more of your damage is getting through. Rom, yeah, he's already tiered up once and is pretty far away too. So Mariner's certainly a compelling choice. 5 of 11 is a very compelling choice as well. Just getting the extra Jayla shards while I can to make her even closer could also be pretty interesting. Something to sleep on. Lloyd's going for 5 of 11. Arguably one of the top 3 choices. I think we sort of established that 5 of 11, probably one that has a lot of immediate impact if you don't have 5 of 11, or if you can tier 5 up from like tier 1 to tier 2, you're going to see pretty substantial improvements. So regarding the SLB officer event, you missed out what the reward is for that event. It's the regular officer events that they run, which is usually what, Latinum and like resources. They don't usually tell you the rewards for the dailies. Let's see. That's Latinum and ship parts, I think, usually. But again, it's an opportunity to sort of compete, and as long as make sure you just get double value out of something potentially. You know, ship parts always come in handy, depending on your bracket and what types of ships you're working with, what you need. So. Decision between usefulness and sourcing is a rough one to make for me, to be honest. And that's kind of why I put this breakdown together for people, trying to narrow the field a little bit. You know, if you start with 37 officers, that's, like I said, it's way too much. You take 21 of them away, it leaves you with 16. That's at least a little more manageable. And then you can start eliminating it down to maybe your top 5 out of that. And if, just to recap, I think my top 5 would probably be 5 of 11, Jayla, Data are probably the 3 I would put at the top of the list. And then, this is where it's going to also come down to your ops level or who you've got unlocked or not unlocked, because Lorca and Worf and Rom certainly have significant value and impact. If you already have them, tiering them up isn't as useful or as immediate of an impact as unlocking them is. Same thing with Tendi and Beckett. They have a lot of value, and tiering them up actually gives you a lot more value and makes them less of a hindrance to you if you don't have as many lower deck slots because you've just recently built a newer ship. Like, oh, I just went to 42 and I just got, my Kelvin or my Valdor, and I only have 2 officer slots. You're probably not spending one of them on Tendi or Beckett, but when you get that ship up a tier or 2 and now you've got 4 officer slots, now these guys get worked back in. So if you're using an older ship, if you have, a high level Enterprise or a high level maxed out Saladin or something that you're using and you have 7 officer slots, these guys have tremendous more upside for you because you're not taking away from your max percentages and they're still making sure you get good additions. So you also got to think, what officers can you get to the next tier if they're in next month's event store? Next month's event store, good thing you bring up there. Typically, event stores, the main grouping of officers that are available are usually ones from the current arc and the previous arc. So we've kind of got the hinting from President Eco that we're very likely to see the strike team officers in there. And I have a feeling if they're in there, they're going to be the priority for everybody else. If you don't have them, or if you want to get them and tier them up, people are going to be spending a lot of their currency on any of the strike team officers that are available, just because of their tremendous value. So I think they're the most likely ones that you'll see. You might see a couple of other decoy officers or distraction officers. They might put the strike team out there and then throw Data and Jayla out there too and be like, well, we heard you guys complaining that sourcing was bad. And you're like, you son of a... I want to buy these strike team officers. Why are you dangling the carrot? Well, because we'll also sell you additional event store currency for $99.99 a pack, and then you can get these extra officer shards that you want. And then that's where they got you. Because they know you wanted these officers, and you're still reeling from the fact that you had to choose between Data and Jayla, and you're like, oh man, I really wish I could get them both. But you can't, you only got one. Now you're kicking yourself thinking, did I get the right one? And now, lo and behold, here comes the opportunity to get the second one. You just got to pay for it.